I want to make a video about PAISTE cymbals. I wanted to do it actually for a long time because I know a lot about PAISTEs. Actually, I know a lot about cymbals, just because I'm such an obsessive compulsive hoarder. But in any case, I found out just the other day. I've been out of the loop for a while that PAISTE is reintroducing the 602 line, which is awesome. It's a B20 alloy, the same more or less alloy as Zildjian and Sabian, because Sabian really is Zildjian. The brothers split up, but they're bringing that back, which is just awesome. The 602s are real pretty, even though again it's the same alloy as Zildjian and Sabian, or and now of course Istanbul cymbals or Bosphorus and all this other stuff. The traditional Turkish alloy. It's different. It has, I don't know if they add different ingredients or they say they mix it differently, whatever. There's a more metallic sound to it. It's slightly like higher pitch. It's not as dark. And over the years, I probably owned over the years maybe 30 602s. Sometimes briefly for a week or two because I bought a drum set because I used to collect, and I might have these cymbals for a while and then sell the cymbals off. Of course, this is all pre-eBay and even the sheet. I remember there was a fella that had a thing called the sheet, which was sort of like a mailer that you could buy and sell to collectors. It was kind of cool. In any case, 602s, it's great they're bringing it back, but they only have them in sound edge, a 14-inch sound edge, 16 and 18-inch thin crash models, and 20-inch medium ride, and I think a 20-inch flat ride, which is cool. I mean, God love them. They want to start small, as they would. But I did hear the sound file of the medium ride, the 20, and it's beautiful. I mean, it sounds like the crash. I mean, it's just got that. It's the B20, but it's kind of. I always felt with alloys, it was kind of like this. I always felt like with the B20 alloy, especially let's say Zildjian or Sabian, it sounds a lot better up close. When you're sitting behind a drum kit, there's nothing like a pair of 14-inch new beat hi-hats, the original ones. The ones in the 80s got heavy, but and like a 22-inch medium ride, and I mean, but as you got further away from Zildjians, the high end sort of disappears, and instead of like a psh, you get more of a like that. Not even that. But anyway, but the 602s, you still have, even though it's B20, they still carry a little better, despite the fact that you don't have the more copper. It's just strange. I don't know how they do it. But yeah, the 602s, it's just totally awesome. I have a couple funny 602 stories. I remember I remember when they first were going to discontinue the 602s. At that time, Modern Drummer. I don't know if there were any other drum magazines around at the time, but you'd read somewhere where they were going to get rid of the 602s. So I had a pair out at the drum pad in Palatine. I had there's a fellow out there named Jim Strike, really nice guy, owns the drum pad in Palatine. Big store, he's got a lot of inventory in there. He's a super nice guy. He had a pair, I was in there one time, on a practice kit, he had a pair of 15-inch sound edge 602 hats. And I remember I was kind of like, and this was maybe again 92 maybe, and I was familiar with I'd gotten really familiar. I'm obviously a big Bonham fan, and I used to, hence because of the PAISTEs. I was so impressed with the PAISTE sound on the Song Remains the Same record that I'm like, oh my God, I'd only heard of Zildjian at the time. I'd heard of PAISTE maybe, but I went out and instantly I was like, wow, PAISTE cymbals, But anyway, so I got that pair from him, and he was nice enough to sell me that pair for $60 in 1991 or two. And but of course the top cymbal was cracked. Is the nature. I mean, the sound edge cymbals, the 602s, they're a very delicate cymbal, and the top's always cracked. And this is a 602 sound edge. You can see that real fine lathing, which of course I think what happened was they came out with like a Joe Morello, because they started the 602s I think in '57 maybe. But they came out with like a Joe Morello. Joe Morello was a big PAISTE guy back in the day. And this, I don't know if they started it as the 7 sound set or whatever, but a lot of those cymbals they made for him had real tight lathing. I was lucky enough to find an 18, there was an 18 crash, I forget what they called it, but the lathing was real fine on it. And I think when they started those for him, is maybe where they got the idea, or when they first started to use the idea of this real fine lathing. which you'd see on the 602 Sound Edge hats. Anyway, this is a 15-inch. This is not the one I got from Jim Strike. I'm going to see that shininess right on there. Because the pair I got from Jim Strike, the bottom, which was probably one of the first they ever made, because like this one, it says patent pending. So that's probably, I think they introduced the Sound Edge in '67. So this is one of, I mean, not one of the first 50 that came off the line, but I guarantee this is the first year. Anyway, the pair I got from Jim were patent pending. You know, so it didn't have the list, it just said patent pending. And of course, when something first comes out, that's what it is. So I bought, when I found out that PAISTE, I was going to replace the top cymbal anyway, but I found out that PAISTE was discontinuing the 602, so I called up, that was the first time I think I called up Brea, California, when they were out there, their local, or their American thing. Anyway, I can't remember if that fellow Andrew Shreve was a really nice guy, was there or not, but I asked him, I said, listen, I want to get my hands on, you know, on a 602 Sound Edge top, a 15. And like, they were either like, there's 2 left, or I think they just had 1 left, but they might have had 2 full pairs. And I was like, whatever, I just want the top. So I took the top, I ordered their, what she told me at the time was their last 15-inch Sound Edge top, which of course was Blue Label. And I got that, and I said, well, what? And I thought, well, while you're at it, I'm like, what else do you got? And they're like, well, we have, you know, a couple pairs of 15-inch medium hats. I said, well, do you have a pair of 15-inch extra heavy hats? Because they had an extra heavy model. And because I'd seen a 14-inch pair at Guitar Center at one point, and I was like, oh my gosh, they were real heavy, but they were just so like Stuart Copeland-y perfect. And so I started, well, throwing a 15-inch medium top. So I was getting the Sound Edge top, the medium top, and then and then I said, well, throw in a pair of 15-inch extra heavies too. So I got them, at that time I was buying my stuff online because it was cheaper, you didn't pay sales tax. Not online because the internet wasn't around, but via, not locally. I called up a company called, there was a place called Thoroughbred Music, I think they were in Florida. So I got to talk to a guy that was really nice. I said, listen, dude, I'm going to get these cymbals through PAISTE. Would you handle, you know, because they wouldn't sell them to me directly. So I got them through Thoroughbred. In any case, so of course they came, and it was, I mean, the 15-inch Sound Edge top was identical to the one that was cracked and broken. I mean, you tap the bell, it was the same pitch and everything. Of course, the medium top was great, and I ended up playing those. My theory was that I was going to have my pair of 15-inch Sound Edge hats, which I did. I had the oldest, pretty much one of the first bottoms they ever made, and then pretty much one of the last tops they ever made. It was so funny. So I had this ancient 602 Sound Edge 15 bottom with one of the last, and it was the most beautiful pair of hats you ever heard. I sold them on eBay, and a guy I know, a friend of mine, Bob, who I turned himself into a huge PAISTE fanatic, but with my help. In fact, I played and have seen a lot of my PAISTE knowledge, a large deal of it now has come through him, because he went out and I thought I was obsessed with most of them. He went out and bought probably up to 100 or more PAISTE cymbals, used, pretty much all 2002s, 602s, and giant beat. In any case, he has the pair of the Rat Bastard. So he has them, and he'll attest to you that they are the best pair of cymbals. Even though he's my friend, he has not sold them back to me. But I told him that's okay. But what I did is then I went out, and of course on eBay I have 2 bottoms. One is patent pending, and the other one is patent, you know, the patents are there. But these are, the original Sound Edge had more ripples. And I actually want to say that the original Sound Edge I saw in the Joe Morello set, and I don't know if it was a Joe Morello set, but it was a 14-inch pair of Sound Edge hats that had, and I'm not kidding, like 120 ripples. And the ripples were real, real light. And they weren't even exact, like they didn't even look like they were perfectly spaced. And it was original. I mean, these came from the factory that way. It wasn't like somebody hammered them out. But in any case, when they went to Sound Edge proper, I guess, there were, I want to say, I would swear that I've seen upwards of 52 ripples on a 602 bottom. Anyway, this one has 46 or 44. And then current ones you'll see now will almost invariably, I think, have, like on a 2002 pair, will have 32 ripples. So they brought the number of the ripples down. I don't know if they thought maybe there was more breakage with more ripples, like more places the cymbal could fail or whatever. But this is a 44 rippler, as is my other one floating around here someplace. And for a comparison, here I'll show you. I'll show you, because I'm from the Show Me state of Missouri. This is a 15-inch, this is a Black Label 2002 bottom. And I have rivets in it, because I wanted to be like Mick Fleetwood at the time. You'll see that this one, this is not a 34. This one actually has 38 ripples, which is kind of bizarre. Well, not really. I have another pair of 15-inch soundage hats here somewhere that has the common 34, or the now common. I don't want to drop this 602 or I'll freak out on camera. Anyway, this one here, my wife was nice enough to buy this pair for me back, a long time ago. I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago. The serial number on these is, oh my gosh, these are from 2000. So this is soundage. Anyway, I don't want to digress too much, but the point I'm making is this is a pair which was new in 2000, according to the serial number. 17, yeah, so 1734, 34 ripples, which is pretty much now the norm. So the original, I got a lot of cymbals here. Stand by. But yeah, the original ripples, the original cymbals had a lot more ripples, which is kind of cool. And they actually do sound, I mean, I don't know if they sound better. You know how people are, they think it's then. If they had it way back then, it must have been better, and they were better. What the frick? All right, stand by, people. Do my best here. Anyway, so back to the 602s, because I want to keep this about 602s, because I started to make a video about 602s, and I started to digress and go off tangents, so now I'm remaking and trying to be concise. 602 great cymbals. The original line, I remember because I have catalogs, which are around here somewhere, they made from like, they had an 11-inch splash always, which was cool. It was 11 inches. How, German can you get? Not 10, not 12, 11, And then they had, but then they had a paper-thin model, which might have come a little later in the late 60s, but it had paper-thin, thin crash, medium, and then a medium ride model, and then heavy, and I think that was it. And then, of course, they had the medium hat. I think they just had hi-hat. The original hi-hats, and then they went to medium hi-hat and maybe a heavy model, but of course they had the soundage hats. Anyway, but in this catalog, it's funny to see this catalog, because in this catalog, which is stock, which isn't, you could order a 23-inch medium, or a 23-inch thin crash, or 23-inch thin. Like it was in the catalog, it wasn't a special order. It's funny, PAISTE did that. You'd see, go 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world when I first saw that catalog, and you could get like if you wanted to get like a 13-inch ride, a 13-inch. I mean, it was amazing. These guys, God love them, man. And so anyway, that's the 602s. They're just real pretty. I'm hoping that they, I'm sure they will. They'll expand it, and I'd like to get my hands on a brand new pair of 15-inch soundage hats just for old time's sake. When I used to foam over the old Zeppelin pictures, because I do have a pair now. Like I said, I do have two bottoms, because after I lost that pair on eBay for $300 to my friend Bob, God love you, I was like, I gotta get. So I went out and I bought two bottoms. I was fortunate to get these pretty cheap. I might even got one from Sherrill Willoughby, like 120 buy it now, which I thought was at the time dirt cheap for this thing, or one of them. The other one I have, I think, is from '74. But anyway, yeah, so hopefully they'll come out with a 15-inch pair, maybe, of course, a 22-inch ride, or a 24, of course, the Bonamy guys. A 22, maybe they'll do like a 22-inch flat ride, and maybe like, they'll change, maybe they'll bring back the paper thins, because they really are beautiful cymbals, the 602s. And I remember calling PAISTE back, and when I was, around the time I was ordering these, I can't remember if it was Andrew, I think it was a lady, though. I had told her, I said, I really think you guys are like cutting your nose off to spite your face. It's funny that, let me see how much time is left on this, because I'm telling you, man, I can talk for decades. I really felt that they were cutting their nose off to spite their face by getting rid of the 602s. My feeling has always been, Zildjian, the Zildjian family, and then, of course, Sabian, these guys always were, whether they really felt that, PAISTE made crap cymbals, or they wanted to at least present that attitude to be like, listen, we all know people that our cymbals are the best. We've been making them since, 59 BC, or 1623 or whatever. But they really always dissed PAISTE, especially for the B8 alloy, and especially because they made what Zildjian does is they whip up a big batch of bronze, and then there's almost like chocolate chip chunks of bronze that they take each molten chip that hardens and they turn that into a cymbal. Whereas what PAISTE did is they'd have that big batch of molten bronze, but they'd lay it out like instead of a chip, they just lay it out flat and they'd roll it, and then they'd cut discs like you'd make cookies, you know. So the big thing always with PAISTE and Zildjian, I don't know if I remembers this, but in the 80s and early 90s was the whole cast versus sheet cymbals and all that stuff. And Zildjian relished being like, your cymbals stink because they're cookie cutter, and PAISTE would be like, screw you, it doesn't make a difference, and they were right in my opinion. Although I love Zildjian. Zildjian's a great cymbals, but in any case, let's be fair. I mean, a good cymbal is a good cymbal, whether PAISTE makes it or Sabian or whoever or Zildjian. Anyway, so I remember telling them I thought they were cutting their nose off to spite their face, because I really just felt like, and this was before the signature alloy came out in, I think, '89, which was the signature and of course the sound formula. But I just felt like it was sort of their way of saying, oh yeah, well, we're not even going to use that alloy anymore, And I know they always said that the sales were declining. Of course, I think as they would. I mean, everything goes through trends and stuff, and everyone was playing, especially with PAISTE, everyone was playing the 3000s and the 2002s came back. I mean, there's, PAISTE, the B8 alloy is a great alloy, And I'm going to make more videos on PAISTE. I just realized I could talk for 16 hours. But anyway, so I told him that. I said, you guys, I think you're making a mistake. I said, if you want to like limit the line or something. But I felt like, because at that time they started pumping out all these lines. They came out with like, in '86 they got rid of the 2002s. And then came out with the 1000, 2000, 3000, then the 100, or the 200, 400, and then the 500 marching, 900 marching. They made everything almost metric. To me, it was very similar to sort of like the Coca-Cola Classic thing. Where they got rid of Coke Classic and they made Coke 2, and then they brought Coca-Cola Classic back. Well, of course, they brought the 2002s back, I think in 90 or 91, anyway. But the 602s were gone. They got rid of them in like 94. And but they're a great cymbal if you get a chance. I'll tell you, man, they really are just a great cymbal. You can have duds. I think you're more likely to have duds with B20 alloy. Because I mean, you'll see duds with Zildjians. Every so often you see a dud with any cymbal. Ones that just really aren't all that hot. But if you really get a chance, I mean, I'm not paid by PAISTE or anything. But they're awesome cymbals. They truly are, man. And the sound edge. It's so funny too about the sound edge. Zildjian and PAISTE. Of course, again back to the B8. They relegated all their beginner stuff to B8. Like way back in the day, it was like this. Well, the scimitar, the original scimitar were brass, I think, but then the scimitar 2 were bronze, and then they came out. Actually, Zildjian actually came out with a cymbal called Amir. I want to say maybe like 80 or 81, and I want to say somebody told me, I don't know if this is true, that the original Amir cymbals, which are B8 alloy, were made with the Zildjian technique, meaning that they had a big vat of molten bronze. And then they made chips and like individually made them like they did the regular Zildjians. I don't know if that's true. I was told that. But my feeling always was that Zildjian just didn't really have a lot of luck. I think somebody at Zildjian might have been like, well, let's get into B8. But I think at first they realized, I think B8, I think PAISTE spent a lot of time making B8 a really good alloy. And they really made B8 alloy work. And I think my personal theory is that Zildjian maybe tried it a little bit with the original Amir line and was like, screw this, And they relegated it. So then they just relegated it all to their intro lines, which of course gave them ammunition to be like, yeah, we'll use B8 sheet rolled on our intro stuff, but if you want the real deal. Anyway, so PAISTE got rid of them, but they're bringing them back. God love them. They truly are an excellent, just pretty cymbal. And God knows. Again, I've had about 30 over the years, but I'm down to these two. I have a 15-inch medium top, or a 15-inch that I just realized I bought a couple years ago. I forgot about it. And then I have a cut down. Somebody cut down an 18 to a 15, which is nice. It has a big bell. I use that as a bottom. Anyway, I'm rambling. So that's my 602 story. I just want to make some videos. I'm trying to think of some other videos to make, and I just thought I'd crank this out. So